at where it looks to be headed now. The new concerns this morning for a life-threatening storm surge up the East Coast. Florida's governor ordering the first evacuations. People stockpiling supplies.
Frustrations mounting as residents anticipate shortages.
Fuel is an issue.
Gas stations running dry across the state.
Every pump you go to has lines and lines.
Store shelves emptied. President Trump declaring an emergency, ordering federal assistance ahead of the monster storm.
It's one of the biggest hurricanes we've seen in a long time.
We have live team coverage on the ground with the latest track of the storm.
Also this morning, suspicious deaths. Families demanding answers after as many as 11 veterans died at this hospital in West Virginia under suspicious circumstances.
We need answers, and the family needs answers.
The investigation this morning.
Pitcher's death. New details about how LA Angels star Tyler Skaggs died. This morning, his family shocked.
As we observe a moment of silence.
What they and the team are saying about the findings.
And celebrating the life of Valerie Harper.
I'm very pleased you got a big part in the play.
The longtime TV star, best known as Rhoda, on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Tributes from fans and co-stars pouring in this morning.
Live from ABC News in New York, this is Good Morning America.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Let's get right to our top story. Hurricane Dorian barreling toward the East Coast right now. Take a look at the satellite imagery. This storm is a beast, strengthening overnight. It is now a Category 4 with winds up to 140 miles an hour.
The big development this morning, the forecast models now predict that Dorian will probably not make landfall in Florida. Instead, the storm may make landfall further north in the Carolinas. However, and this is important, even if the current forecast model holds, that does not mean Florida can fully exhale.
Also, bear in mind here that when it grazes the coast, Dorian is expected to bring a significant storm surge, which could mean flooding and property damage. This morning, with the storm bearing down, Floridians are scrambling to stock up on gas and other supplies, which are running low. We have team coverage, and we start with Rob, who's on the ground in Cocoa Beach. Rob, good morning.
Good morning, Whit. This is not the Labor Day weekend that folks here were hoping for. Tourists are getting out. Residents are preparing their families, their homes for what may come. This part of Florida landscape is complex. I want to show you our drone shot. There's water pretty much everywhere. Waterways and rivers intertwined just inland here from Cocoa Beach. Meanwhile, another scenic and tranquil sunrise coming up on this Saturday morning, all while a monster hurricane looms in the Atlantic. This morning, Hurricane Dorian, a major Category 4 storm marching towards the southeast U.S., with Florida set to get it first. The governor urging locals to heed any calls for evacuation.
There is a danger to your life if you remain in these evacuation zones.
Brevard and Martin counties already announcing mandatory evacuations for the barrier islands, low-lying properties, and mobile homes starting Sunday morning, with more evacuation orders expected over the weekend.
I'm tired.
Eileen White and her husband making a 6-hour drive from Florida to Georgia to dodge the storm.
It's hard for older people to leave, and Florida's filled with old people. Just say some prayers for us, please.
It's pretty chaotic out there. I'm glad I prepared last weekend.
Dorian's winds could cut power for millions of customers in Florida. More than 16,000 work crews from Florida Power and Light on the way to help.
The damage will require extended repair work. And in extreme cases, it may require FP&L to rebuild parts of the system here in Florida.
Shops and homes throughout the state boarding up. Containers and umbrellas and lounges moved off the beaches. For what is typically a major travel weekend to Florida, the Daytona Beach International Airport Terminal closing Sunday. Orlando International Airport to cease commercial flights starting Monday. Dorian forecast to bring life-threatening storm surge and damaging winds. The famed hurricane hunters tasked with gathering vital information inside the storm, speaking to ABC News.
The initial prognosis of the storm was that this was going to be a tropical storm and not much more, and we're already up to a Cat 4 at this point in time, so it's growing, it's intensifying, it's a big storm. Don't overlook it.
They have been flying nonstop through this storm, and that data is helping us get some better forecast accuracy, at least we hope. This drone showing just how much water is surrounding this place. We're on a sliver of land that connects the barrier islands, including Cape Canaveral, to the mainland. And those barrier islands have been ordered to evacuate beginning tomorrow morning because where I stand right now may very well be underwater with the combination of the wind, the storm surge, and what is unfortunately timing out to be astronomically high tide. So that is not a good combination, regardless of if this thing makes landfall or not. But it is a beast. I want to show it to you on the satellite picture. Anytime I look at something like this, when you have an eye like that on the infrared picture, it does, to me, look like a monster, and it just gives me chills up my spine, especially when you see a track that comes this close to the U.S. Category 4 storm with winds potentially getting closer to Category 5 status. It's going over very warm water. The Bahamas are obviously going to get it first. They have hurricane warnings up there, and the track or the pattern remains the same. That high pressure is what's nudging it to the west. Here are some of our computer models, but now there's indications that the western edge of that ridge is going to weaken, and that will open the door for Dorian to make a right turn to the north a little sooner than we once thought. That is a good scenario, at least for South Florida and for inland areas of Florida, because look at the computer model winds guidance here. This is a stark difference from what this particular model was showing us yesterday. It was showing us 110-mile-an-hour winds expected in West Palm Beach, about half that now expected if this forecast holds true. If it comes 50 miles either direction to the west, then we're talking about a whole nother ballgame. So the margin of error is very small with this sort of trajectory. And obviously Savannah, Hilton Head, and Charleston are going to have to worry about this midweek with life-threatening storm surge, hurricane-force winds, and heavy flooding rains. This story is not going away, unfortunately, for the folks here in the southeast U.S. Eva?
All right, a lot of people anxiously watching that this morning. Thanks, Rob. Well, Dorian is making its move towards the Bahamas right now, and people there are getting ready for a direct hit with this storm. ABC's Marcus Moore is in Marsh Harbor for us this morning. Good morning, Marcus.
Well, Eva, good morning. They are on high alert here in this part of the Bahamas, where, as you just mentioned, they're preparing for a possible direct hit. And we could begin to feel the effects of Dorian in the next few hours. In fact, they'll be shutting down the airport later today and a number of the businesses that have been open over concern for this storm. And we have seen an urgent effort to prepare, people boarding up their homes and businesses here on this island. And we saw a frenzied scene inside one of the grocery stores where dozens of people had their shopping carts full of food and supplies as they prepare for this dangerous hurricane. And it is worth noting that there are evacuation orders in place because the storm surge could reach as high as 15 feet here in this area. So they are anticipating a dangerous storm. And one of the things the Prime Minister said is that people need not be foolish. They need to take this storm seriously. Dan?
Marcus, thank you very much. Marcus Moore on the ground in the Bahamas. Meanwhile, there is also a mad dash this morning to fill up on gas and stockpile on necessities in Florida, and that is leaving store shelves and gas pumps in that state empty. The Florida Highway Patrol is now being used to escort fuel trucks to areas that need it, and ABC's Gio Benitez is right there in Miami with that part of the story. Gio, good morning to you.
Hey, Dan, good morning. Listen, finding a gas station with gas and without lines, well, that's just a needle in a haystack. And this morning, we are learning that more and more gas stations are just out of gas.
Frustration rising among Florida residents as they prepare for Hurricane Dorian. In some places, lines of cars stretching down entire roads.
Every pump you go to has lines and lines.
No more. This gas station owner waving off drivers, telling them the day's 7,000 gallons are gone. Governor DeSantis acknowledging the shortage.
Fuel is an issue. There's gas stations that have run out of fuel.
As of this morning, at least 6 counties in Dorian's path saying their pumps have nearly run dry, with more than half of their supply already gone. Miami-Fort Lauderdale hit the hardest. 72% of their gas stations are without fuel this morning. I'm looking for gas myself, but at the stations with no lines, well, that's because the pumps are covered up. They've run out of gas. The Florida Highway Patrol now escorting tankers, bringing in more fuel. We've also seen long lines forming at Florida stores as shelves across the state are emptying out. People scrambling to stock up on last-minute supplies.
I came for water and some gas tanks. We waited till the last minute, so hopefully we could get something.
Residents also taking precautions to minimize any potential flooding in their homes once Dorian arrives.
All of these cars in line are waiting for this, bags of sand. Each household gets 6 bags of sand, the city of Miami giving it away for free.
Gabriel Velasquez, who was here during Hurricane Irma in 2017, is preparing for what's to come.
Even though the storm's days away,
you got to be ready no matter what.
And officials here want you to make sure that you're looking at that full cone of uncertainty, because if this decides to change, if that path decides to change, yet again, they don't want people caught off guard. So prepare as if this storm were coming directly your way. Eva?
All right, good advice there this morning, Gio. Well, storm surge and flooding is a big concern along most of the coast, including in Jacksonville, which was hit hard by Hurricane Irma 2 years ago. That's where ABC's Kaylee Hartung is joining us now. Kaylee, good morning to you.
Good morning, Eva. This is the St. Johns River. It's the longest river in Florida, and it dumps into the Atlantic here in Jacksonville. It's an important shipping channel, but as the storm approaches, it also poses a tremendous threat. 2 years ago, as you mentioned, Hurricane Irma storm surge sent the waters of the Atlantic into this river, and then they flowed into downtown Jacksonville behind me, and here on the other banks into the San Marco area. This is not a commercial area. This is a place where people live. This retaining wall, it's new. It's been rebuilt and raised because Irma destroyed what was here before. Residents on this street, they tell me this street can flood with a heavy downpour of rain. Now, even though Hurricane Irma's eye came more than 70 miles from here, I'm told that water came up just below the first floor window of this home. Some of the homes on this street had to be gutted, finishing their renovations a matter of months ago. People here familiar with the threat they could face, and Jacksonville's mayor is reminding everyone here they can't tune out this storm. Whit.
Everybody's got to be prepared. Kaylee Hartung for us. Thank you. President Trump, meanwhile, is monitoring developments with Hurricane Dorian this morning after expressing his concern about just how damaging it might be. ABC's Rachel Scott is at the White House with what the president is saying. Rachel, good morning.
Whit, good morning to you. Well, President Trump said this storm looks like it could be an absolute monster. The president was supposed to be heading to Poland this weekend to commemorate the beginning of World War II, the anniversary there. Instead, the president scrapping his international plans to keep a close eye on this storm. And he'll be doing that not from here at the White House today, but from Camp David. He has an advisor traveling with him that will give him up-to-date information on this storm and its path. He has a briefing on the books for later this afternoon. And the president has continued to say that his biggest concern and priority here is the safety of residents. But something that will also likely cross the president's mind during these briefings is his own property. The president has multiple real estate properties in the state of Florida, including Mar-a-Lago, which is a frequent stop for the president during the winter months. And yesterday he told reporters it could be at risk.
Mar-a-Lago is dead center, but look, Mar-a-Lago can handle itself. That's a very powerful place. The thing I'm worried about is the state of Florida, because this hurricane is looking like this could be a record-setting hurricane. Now, maybe things change.
And the president will return from Camp David tomorrow and head directly to FEMA headquarters, where he will have a meeting. He will continue to defer to local officials for any additional evacuations, but he said more decisions can expect it to be made after that meeting tomorrow. Eva?
All right, Rachel Scott for us there at the White House. Joining us now from FEMA headquarters in Washington is Associate Administrator for Response and Recovery, Jeffrey Beyer. Now, the path of this storm keeps shifting. It's moving along Florida and now possibly turning up toward the Carolinas. That is a much bigger area of coastline to be watching. How does this new path change how your teams are preparing to deal with this storm?
Yes, ma'am. First and foremost, thank you for having us. You're a very vital part of our team in emergency management and emergency response. So just as you said, the coastline is expanded, so we want to make sure that those residents in Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina are definitely starting to make their preparatory actions. However, we don't want the citizens of Florida to lose sight of the cone of uncertainty that the storm presents. And even if it skirts the coastline, as current forecasts have it. This is going to create a lot of rain, wind, and damage all through Florida. So, we have to keep our eye on Florida, and from the federal level, we start moving teams. We already have teams in Georgia. We'll start putting response assets and teams in South Carolina and North Carolina. So, although it's bigger, we will be prepared for any impacts that Hurricane Dorian presents.
This is a powerful storm. We heard Rob call it a monster storm and sending shivers up his spine. With a storm like this, what are you most concerned about?
We have, at FEMA, our job is to be concerned with everything. So, the list that I get concerned about is pretty long, but that's what I'm paid to do. So our most and largest concern is that citizens are not paying attention. Or they don't take these storms like this serious, or if that skinny black line is not forecasted to come over their house, they feel like they're out of the danger area, and that can be deadly. A lot of rain, a lot of flooding, a lot of inland flooding, everything that can happen in a hurricane, this storm will have it. So our biggest concern is that the messages are not getting out, or people begin to get complacent because there's been a track shift, or again, that skinny black line is not going over their house. So that's why I go back to how much we're appreciative of the media and just a very important job that you do of getting this message out to this wide range of coastline and our citizens.
A good reminder to everyone in that cone of uncertainty to heed these warnings. Jeffrey Beyer, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
No question about it. Let's get back to Rob Marciano, who's in Cocoa Beach, Florida, watching all of this. And Rob, as you've been pointing out, even if this doesn't make landfall, still a glancing blow can cause significant damage.
We saw that with Hurricane Matthew just 3 years ago. Could be very well a similar track again. Anyway, any deviation 50 miles either way of that skinny black line that we spoke of, it will mean the world of difference. So you got to focus more on the cone as we go through time here. Here's a satellite picture again. You can see a couple of things with this. One, obviously a very distinct eye. The other is that the front side of it is not as symmetrical as the backside as far as the strength goes. So that's good, in that it's not in a hugely strengthening mode right now. But hurricane warnings are posted for the Bahamas, and hurricane watches for the southern Bahamas as well, for big-time storm surge and obviously destructive winds as this Cat 4 rolls through there during the day tomorrow. When will you feel those tropical storm force winds? Well, here on the Florida Peninsula, tomorrow afternoon is probably when they're going to start to come in. That's 39 miles an hour or above. That's when they shut down airports, they shut down the bridges. Monday morning, a little closer to Jacksonville, and then getting up towards Georgia and South Carolina, going into Tuesday and Wednesday, and that's where we'll see a significant storm surge and heavy rainfall, flooding rains across much of the southeast corner of the U.S. This is going to impact a huge area, including some big waves that will do some damage too. That's a check on what's happening Dorian-wise. Here now is a look at your local forecast.
Well, hello and good morning, Washington. Latest on Hurricane Dorian as of 5 o'clock this morning. You see 140-mile-per-hour maximum sustained winds, Category 4 storm, expected to remain and keep that intensity north of the Bahamas, eventually taking a track in a more northerly course there by Wednesday and Thursday. May actually impact the southeastern coast here by Thursday and Friday of next week. Now, this weekend here, partly cloudy skies, temperatures into the upper 80s, mid-80s on your Sunday. Chance for a few storms Sunday and Monday afternoon.
The mood here in Florida is shifting somewhat in the last 12 hours from like a team getting beat badly in a basketball game to the momentum swinging late game, potentially seeing some victory here if this thing were to take the track it's trending towards, which would be offshore. Of course, the game is far from over, so we'll continue to update you throughout this show and the weekend. Guys, back up to you.
Not a time for people in Florida to become less vigilant. Rob, thank you for hammering that point home and for leading our coverage this morning. We'll come back to you in the second half hour. Meanwhile, we switch gears a little bit to talk about Hollywood celebrating the life of a sitcom legend. This morning, Valerie Harper, who passed away Friday after a decade-long battle with cancer. And Diane Macedo is here with all the tributes that are pouring in. Good morning to you.
Good morning. So there are a few sidekick roles more iconic than Rhoda Morgenstern, and that's largely due to the talent of Valerie Harper. This comedic actress won Emmys, a Golden Globe, and the hearts of America throughout her long and fruitful career. And now friends and family are speaking out in tribute.
Believe me, Mary, I'm not putting you on. You were really good.
Television icon Valerie Harper captured the hearts of millions, playing the funny, sharp-tongued Rhoda Morgenstern on the 70s hit The Mary Tyler Moore Show.
I'm very pleased you got a big part in a play.
Terrific. So what did you have to do to get it?
After a successful run, Harper went on to do the spin-off series Rhoda, winning 4 Emmys and a Golden Globe. For more than 30 years, Harper continued to make America laugh, making regular appearances on various television shows and films. But in 2009, Harper was diagnosed with